Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to another video. I'm here to talk about a little movie called The Little Mermaid. Of course, it's the 2023 live-action adaptation, increasing the ever-growing catalog of Disney's live-action remakes of classic 2D animated movies. We have a couple more coming in the next year or so. Don't we have Snow White coming? I think there's a Hunchback of Notre Dame one coming also. At least I heard they were making it a few years ago, and I don't know where it is now. I'm sure there's a million other ones. Of course, we just had Peter Pan also like a month before this movie. But of course, this is Little Mermaid. This is probably the most controversial one. I'd say this was, and then number 2 was actually Peter Pan. Probably number 3 was probably Mulan. Am I forgetting anything in between? I'm not sure. Snow White's probably going to be controversial because of the casting in that one too. I'm just going to throw it out there. Okay, I understand if you're upset about it, and I also understand if you think it's ridiculous for people to be upset about it. I just don't care, because when I heard they were making a Little Mermaid remake, and this was before the casting, I was like, well, that's going to be soulless. And that was before, I think I want to say when they announced that was happening, that was before Aladdin and Lion King both came out. So there wasn't as many live action adaptations. That was definitely before Pinocchio. That was definitely before Peter Pan and Wendy. So it was just like before 4 of the most soulless ones, at least from what people would say. I didn't hate Aladdin. I enjoyed it. I thought Will Smith was good at it. And I like the guy that played Aladdin too. Yeah, I was just very like, it's just not gonna be good. Like, I don't care who the casting was at the time. There was no casting at the time. They just announced it. I was just like, it's just not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good. There's no way it's gonna be good. Even if it's good, it's not gonna be anywhere near as good as the original. So what the fuck is the point besides just to make money and to have people? Oh, I know the song. I remember the story. It's longer now. I already knew it was gonna be like double the length too, because that's every one of these fucking movies. They have to add at least 30 minutes to an hour long, an hour more of footage to a movie that was perfectly fine at 75 to 80 minutes long. Same thing with Aladdin. Same thing with Lion King. Same thing with Peter Pan. Most likely, I haven't seen it to be fair. It's same thing with Little Mermaid. So I already knew what to expect. But I was keeping a like maybe like 90% like it's gonna suck. 10% it could be good. There's 10% chance it could still be good. The trailers came out, and I was like, the special effects don't look as bad as I expected, considering Disney nowadays. Halle Bailey can definitely sing. Okay, that's good. Melissa McCarthy is actually not terrible as Ursula. So, like, the more I saw, like, the trailers and TV spots and clips and stuff, I was like, okay, I mean, okay, this looks a little soulless. This doesn't look that great. This was okay. Okay, this could be okay. At least okay. And I saw it a few days ago, gave myself some time to think. And, well, all I gotta say is that, I forgot most of it already. I mean, I didn't, don't get me wrong, I didn't forget the story. It's the exact same story as the original. Except just longer, and less pretty to look at, because this movie decides, oh, you know what? The underwater is dreary. So that means our version of the underwater also has to be dreary. I'm like, what? You're not making a realistic movie, bro. I'm sorry. It's called The Little Mermaid. She's a mermaid. Why is everything so dark? Even when it's like brightly lit, kind of like under the sea sequence, it's still like murky and like, oh yeah, there's colors, but it's all like, it's like if Zack Snyder made a freaking Little Mermaid musical number. I'm like, it's just like, it's still like muted. It's like, it just didn't pop. But yeah, it's about what I expected. I don't think it was bad. I think there's bad elements to it. I think the runtime is incredibly unnecessary, because the stuff they added and the things they've changed were completely unnecessary. Completely. There was nothing wrong with the original Little Mermaid. I'm sorry. I know some people will come out and say, well, you know what? Like, Ariel, she should have did this, she should have did that. I'm like, there was nothing wrong with that movie. I'm sorry, there's nothing. I don't even know, I haven't seen it in the longest time. I can tell you right now, from my memory, there's nothing wrong with that movie. Okay, maybe you could argue, oh, some of the animation's not amazing. There's no way that's the case. But when it comes to the story and what happens from point A to point B, there's nothing wrong with it. I will bet my life on that. Okay, I will bet it. Nothing wrong with it. And I'm sure that some people will be offended by fucking everything, but The Little Mermaid, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing that needed to be changed. I'm sorry. That's just it. Add to it, sure. Change it, no. You can add scenes between characters that wasn't there, and it could work. Changing certain things in this movie, I'm not going to spoil them just in case, didn't make any sense to me. So I didn't like almost any of the changes. The only one I thought was okay was a little bit. Well, it's not a change. It's just adding more scenes between Ariel and Eric, who I liked those two together. It wasn't like amazing or anything, but it was more like doughy eyes, which makes sense because she can't speak and he's just there. He doesn't do much. But like I didn't mind them together. I thought they had a little bit of chemistry, just a little bit. And I was like, okay, this works better than I was expecting it to be to work. But yeah, they didn't add enough for me to care that much for like any of the characters more than I already did in the original animated movie. And they took away things, and they also made like certain characters like not even close to as memorable. Like Triton in this, King Triton was, I mean, I love Javier Bardem. Just watch No Country for Old Men, one of the best performances of all time. But good Lord, was he so underwhelming? Like he wasn't bad, but he was just like, when he was there was a scene towards the end of the movie that's supposed to make you go, oh man, and make you choke up. In the original, it always does. In this one, not even a little bit. I'm like, oh, I didn't feel it throughout the entire movie. Holly Bailey, even though she can really sing, I didn't really care for her character as much as I did in the original. I'm sorry, I just didn't. That's just the truth. I really didn't. Like, I liked her enough. I thought she was good in the movie. And she has one of the best performances in the movie, but I just didn't really care for Ariel. But to be fair, I didn't care for Ariel. I don't even want to get into Scuttle. She was fucking annoying. But like, I didn't really care for any of that. I definitely didn't care for any of the sisters, which, to be fair, you don't really get much of the sisters in the original, which is fine. You don't need every character to have amazing screen time and stuff, but like, they're generic in this movie, maybe even more generic, because at least in the original, they were really happy and fun. In this one, they kind of just show up, and I think they say maybe 2 lines a piece, maybe, maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, and you can explain away that in the original, because it's again 75 to 80 minutes, and that's not the point of the story. Here, if you're gonna add another almost hour to the film, then add some stuff that is substantial. And here, they really didn't. The only thing I would even argue substantial is just extra scenes between Ariel and Eric. But even that, I felt it more in the original. I just did. And it helps. It really helps that animation immediately. I feel more for characters when they're animated. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. When I see a character that's animated versus a character that is live action, I look at the animation. I love animation. I already like that character more. So it's not exactly fair, but like, you can do so much with animation. And in animation, they made everything feel more alive than this CG mess does. Like, it's just the truth to me. To me, that's the truth. When we're under the sea and we're doing Under the Sea and all those songs, it just doesn't look great and doesn't feel alive like the original did. It just didn't. It just doesn't have a soul. I'm sorry. I don't want to always say soulless, but it just doesn't. Like, I feel bad because the special effects for the most part don't look that bad. There's a couple of issues here and there, but for the most part, they don't look that bad. They don't look great, I don't think, but they look fine. Hey, Underwater looks pretty good. I mean, I don't like the designs for like Sebastian and Flounder and stuff, but they don't look terrible CG like quality wise. Sebastian's probably my favorite character in the movie. I should say Sebastian is the closest to his original character in my eyes, and I actually really like. Is it David Diggs? I think it's David Diggs. I really like him. I thought he was great. So I really liked him. So I would say he's probably the best when it comes to being the original, but also doing his own thing. I don't know why they made it. Here's a change that really annoyed me. Because I do remember in the beginning of Little Mermaid, and this actually really makes sense why he sings at random points in the movie. Because he is a conductor, right? He's a composer or something. Like, I remember it starts off with I haven't seen Little Mermaid in a little while. I still remember a big chunks of the movie. It starts off with the freaking like musical number, and Ariel isn't there with her sisters and stuff, and he's a composer. He's a music composer, and Triton's there. He's like, yeah, I want to see my daughters and stuff. And she's off doing the thing with finding the fork, and then the shark shows up, which is the same how this movie starts pretty much, except for without the composer part. So they just got rid of that for Sebastian. I'm like, why did you get rid of that Sebastian? That's like one of the key parts of his character. That's why later when he sings Under the Sea and Kiss the Girl, it makes sense. Like, oh, he's a oh, and that's why he's like talking about the percussion and stuff. That makes sense. And then when he's talking about the all the fish that this guy's this guy's that, because he's a composer. It makes sense. In this, it doesn't make any sense. He just starts singing, which is again, that's okay. But when you have a character that has a reason why he'll start singing, and then you take that away for no reason, then it's like, I have to pinpoint it. Yeah, I have to point it out. Most musicals, characters just start singing out of nowhere. I get that. I'm sure I'll get a comment about that. But I'm saying they already had a character that has a reason to sing because it makes sense for that character, and then they took it away, and now it just doesn't make, it makes less sense now. When you could have kept that in there. I don't know why they did it. I mean, it blows my mind they took that out. Of all the things, that change is the most ridiculous one. Like, I won't spoil any other changes. That's not really even a spoiler. It doesn't happen in the first 5 minutes. So immediately it doesn't happen in the first 5 to 10 minutes. So even though it does start with a long sequence, whatever, it does start differently, kind of. But like what they have in the beginning doesn't change the fact that it's just kind of pointless. And it's so long. By the time it was wrapping up, when Melissa McCarthy does her kaiju shit, I'm like, I mean, this looks cool. I'll give it that, but like, I don't care. I already know what's going to happen. The boat. I mean, it's somebody different that steers the boat, which I know some people probably don't like that, but I'm just like, I don't fucking care, honestly. I just don't care. Just end the movie. And then it ends, I'm like, good. Woo! I'm out of here. That was pointless. It's a waste of time. I'm sorry. It just is. It's worse in almost every way. Not terrible, again, just worse. You can still be okay and be worse than something else, especially if that thing is amazing or great. The Little Mermaid is a classic. This is not. I'm sorry. It's the same thing as Beauty and the Beast, which I don't think was terrible. It looked really bad at times. But I don't think it was terrible. I liked certain things about it. Same thing with Aladdin. Like, none of these are bad, but they're completely well, no, that's not true. I think Lion King is bad. I still haven't seen Pinocchio, and I heard Peter Pan's not very good, which is really upsetting because I love David Lowery as a director. But and I was like, ooh, Pete's Dragon's so good and underrated, and he directed that, and of course Green Knight and Ghost Story and Old Man. Is it called Old Man and the Gun or With the Gun? I think it's And the Gun. Those are all great movies. I'm like, ooh, baby, coming in hot with this Peter Pan, and I hear nothing but bad things. I'm like, oh. Even critics were like not too hot on it. It has like a low 60%, which is like, it could be okay, that means, but is that really worth my time? I mean, this movie, to be fair, wasn't worth my time, but I love Little Mermaid. I do love Peter Pan also, but I love Little Mermaid, and I just feel like it was just pointless. The whole thing was pointless. So that's why this video is gonna be short, because it's not. Again, I like Sebastian. I like him. I think he's about as good as the original, except for I'm talking about just the voice actor, and also he probably has the best laughs in the movie. I still like Sebastian. I just feel like it didn't make sense why they took that out. That's just an example of a change that made no sense. They took something out that was key in the original, made the movie longer, and then added nothing of real value. Like, there are little things here and there that just, I feel like didn't really. It's either things that could have been cool if they added more to it, or it's stuff that just didn't need to be in there, you know? Besides more Eric and Ariel scenes, which, again, cool, I guess, but didn't really, again, like I said, I felt the relationship way more in the original than this. Maybe it's just brevity. Brevity, like, and of course it's also animated. Like, I just feel a relationship more so in something like that. Like, even like Tarzan. Like, I watched Tarzan again. That's one of my favorite ones growing up. I watched Tarzan a few years ago, and it took me until then, I should say, to realize that, dude, fucking Jane doesn't show up until halfway through the movie, and the movie's 80 minutes long. How the hell are they gonna get through the whole, like, relationship thing? But it works because it's animated. It does a really good job. The music does a lot of the heavy lifting. Voice acting's great, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the heavy lifting is the music and visuals, and it does a good job. And by the end, I'm like, yeah. And this just I don't know. Visuals are kind of meh for most part, and the acting's okay, but it's like a lot of doughy eyes where, like, animation it would work. Here it just doesn't for me. I don't know. I just thought it was meh. Like, I didn't think it was terrible. I really didn't think it was terrible. I didn't think it was great. Definitely did not think that. There's some good elements to it. Melissa McCarthy was really good. I liked her. I thought Poor Unfortunate Souls was very well done. The visuals weren't great though. Again, this is the thing. I listened to the soundtrack and I was like, oh, these songs sound pretty good. And then when you see it, I even when I was watching or I was listening to those, I was like, okay, these sound pretty good for the most part, but how are they going to look? That's the important part. And none of them look great. Scuttlebutt was terrible, by the way. Scuttlebutt, the first time I listened to it, I was like, this is really annoying. And then in the movie, it's way worse, I think. I'm sorry. I saw some people like, actually, in context, it's good. Dude, they're literally doing like they're doing like, not gang poses, but they're like doing like, oh, and they're going like, I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, this is terrible. I'm sorry. Everybody loved it in the theater. That's great. Hey, if you like this, cool. Well, I don't care. If you like whatever you want. But, well, maybe not whatever you want. But when it comes to stupid shit like this, go ahead. You like whatever you want. But I was cringing. I'm sorry. It was bad. She didn't twerk though. I'll give it that. I thought, oh, she's gonna start twerking or some shit. Didn't happen. It was close though. I have a feeling if that song went for another 15 seconds, she would have been twerking. But luckily it ends. I just spit everywhere. Luckily it did end. It felt like it went on forever, but it did end eventually. And yeah, like Under the Sea, like. Starts off kind of like, all right, slow start. It just doesn't have. It just didn't have what it needed. I don't know. Like Kiss the Girl was probably the closest visually, but even that, there's a couple guys. All right, they're on the row, the oar or whatever you call it, and that's in the original also. But I don't know. I don't know. It makes me want to watch the original again. I didn't beforehand, but I remember enough. I think that I was good, and yeah, I was just like comparing it in my mind to scenes. And I'm sorry when you call it The Little Mermaid and you say it's based on the classic or whatever. It's just I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to compare it, and the original's better. But even if the original didn't exist, I would still find this movie to be dull and boring. Actually, if it never existed, the original existed, and somehow this was just called The Little Mermaid, it was the first one, I would probably think this is worse because they would have no nostalgia at all. It's like I tried not to have nostalgia. I still had nostalgia. If I had no nostalgia going into this movie and I watched it, I'd probably like it less. I would legitimately like it less. So for the people that would say that, like, you have nostalgia goggles or whatever, like if I didn't have nostalgia goggles, I would like this much less. Like I would think these songs, while okay, visually look gross, and then I would have nothing to really compare it to. You know what I mean? I don't know. Because these songs are decent the way they're performed, but they're not amazing. Like I can tell you right now, if I'd never heard of the original Little Mermaid or it just didn't exist, it did some like Yesterday, the Beatles don't exist thing. Remember that fucking movie? Like if I fell on my bike and then I'm in a world where the Little Mermaid never existed until this movie, I can assure you I'd be like, visually these kind of stuff. The song is good. The way the song is pretty good. But visually, this looks like barf. So anyway, I don't know. Anyway, that's it. I'm just sick of these. Like, I don't give a fuck who's casting them. I don't care. I know it's going to be like one or two people, maybe not. That just immediately assume that I'm going to be fucking racist about it. That's why I didn't like it. No, I thought Halle Bailey was good. I liked her in it. Again, the acting was good in it. It just doesn't matter when the fucking movie itself is just the same shit longer and worse. And that's it. That's all it is. And it looks not as good too. A movie that came out over 30 years ago looks better than this movie now with a $250 million budget. Wrap your head around that fucking shit. So that's it. If I had to give it a score, I'd give it probably a 5 out of 10. Like straight up, it's average. I thought it was gonna be terrible going in, but it ended up I thought the music would be the only thing I like in it, but there's still moments here and there, like, all right, the acting's pretty good. The writing's not great at all. It was very dull, very boring at times. The musical numbers were kind of bland. The visuals for the music were bland. But I don't know. Like when the song, what was the song called? The one with what's his name? The guy, the Prince Eric guy. Johan or something, Jonah? No, it's like Jonah or something. Whatever. When that started, I was like, I predicted exactly what it was going to be. It was just going to be him walking around, singing it, stepping on a rock, getting off a rock, looking at the ocean. It was exactly that. There was nothing inventive about it. Nothing. Even the one that's inside Ariel's head, that song, that one, Also, same thing. It was just like walking around, and they did some neat visual thing where she's like in a dark room or something. And I was like, okay, at least there's something there. Where the Prince Eric one was literally, oh, step on a rock, look out, oh, auto tuned as fuck, and which I didn't notice that when I was listening to the audio version, but in the movie it's very obviously auto tuned, and he's like stepping around, oh, 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 oh. Here you go. That's actually how the song goes. It goes, oh, oh. I'm done. Anyway, there you go. I'd give it a 5 out of 10. That's just my score. Sorry if you don't like it. If you don't like it, kiss my ass.